All right, welcome to another episode of Kickish. Today we have my girl Nikki. Yay!
Hey.
Our topic of discussion today is travel nursing. So, of course, as we always start, I'm going to start off with how I know Nikki. Honestly, I've known Nikki since she was born because she's my cousin. Look at there. We got Fam Bam on the podcast today. So, I normally ask if our stories are the same, but like, you've known me all your life, so it's not really a difference. So yes,
Your mom and my dad are literally one person, just opposite sex.
exactly. Honestly, you're probably my sister because my mom talks about you all the time. Like, Nikki this, Nikki that. I'm like, okay, mom. All right, mom.
Get her out of here.
Oh man, so we're gonna jump right into it. So Nikki, she is a travel nurse, and I'm going to punt it off to you because now I want to know like what type of nurse, what got you interested in travel, well actually what got you interested in nursing, your story there.
Mhm. I wanted to be in healthcare since high school.
Okay.
I had an idea that I wanted to do healthcare. I originally wanted to deliver babies. So I remember elementary school and high school, how to deliver babies, who delivers babies. I found out they were called OBGYN. So that was my whole plan, was to go to medical school, be OBGYN. My junior year in high school, I realized I was not good at math. I struggled in my math classes, and I was like, you know what? I think you have to do a lot of math to make it through medical school. So I started saying how to deliver babies without going to medical school. It's pretty much how I started figuring out that you could be a nurse practitioner and also deliver babies. So that was my original plan, to go into nursing school to become a nurse practitioner slash midwife so that I could deliver babies. So that's how I originally started going into that realm and how I ended up becoming a nurse. I am currently not a nurse practitioner because once I got into the nursing field, I realized there's so much other things that you could do. And I honestly just been enjoying that time. Later in the future, I might go back to school, but right now I've just been any avenue that I find. I'm like, ooh, let me try this. Ooh, let me try this. Because there's so many things that you can do with nursing. So I've been a nurse for 8 years, but I've been travel nursing on and off for 3.5 years. I've done several nursing fields. So underneath my specialty, I've done step down, which is usually the patients that get out the ICU and they need a little bit extra care before going home. I dealt with a lot of patients with heart and lung issues. So after heart transplants, after anybody with asthma or any breathing issues, COPD, pneumonia, I've dealt with patients in that realm also. I've done a little bit of psych as well. And then with travel nursing, typically wherever the money is at, that's where I travel in that area. So I'm very well rounded in that sense. But typically, cardiac, respiratory, step down, and tele is the specialties that I have done in my nursing career.
Okay, so you said, and I'm not too familiar with the nursing world. You say you're not a nurse practitioner. So, what does that mean?
Yes. So a nurse practitioner is someone who has went and got their master's
Okay.
in nursing. And they can split it up and specialize in specific things. But in order to deliver a baby, as a nurse, you do have to have your master's. You do have to become that nurse practitioner, get other certificates. So currently, I just have my bachelor's in nursing, which is a 4-year degree in bachelor's of science in nursing.
Okay. So is there outside of like being able to deliver the babies and like, you gotta have a master's, is there any other limitations with that? Like, is it like pay limitations, only but so much you could do as a nurse?
Yes, correct. So usually, as a bachelor in nursing, in order to advance financially in your career, you typically get your master's. You can get your master's in education. You can get your master's as a nurse practitioner and work basically underneath a doctor as a primary care provider, things like that. But typically, if you're going into your master's, you're either trying to get an 8 to 5 job, or you're trying to financially gain in your career. Typically, nurses do 12 hours, 3 12s. I work night shift. So I've been doing nights for 8 years and I do 3 12s, and that's pretty much the end of my week. I, of course, typically work extra 48 to 60 hours a week, but as a nurse, 36 hours is considered full time. You do three
Okay.
12s or four 10s.
Okay. 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 Wow. Definitely didn't know that. I have seen some people like go get their masters, and then this one girl I know, she's teaching now. I don't know.
Yeah,
I
you
actually
can
don't.
do that. You can get your master's in education, which is something I have thought about because I told myself that if I failed out of nursing school, I would have went into teaching.
Oh my gosh.
So I had a passion in teaching, and I just said, Lord, if I don't make it out, I'm not doing this again. I'm about to be an elementary teacher.
Woo, girl. You would have went back to nursing school. You would have went back to school. I'm telling you.
But
You don't need it.
education, yes, you have to get your master's to do education. So that is something that is in the back of my head. If I chose to get my master's, you could get your master's in education.
Okay, okay, okay. So what is one thing that you let me go back. What is the biggest difference or the difference between travel nursing and would it just be like regular nursing or
Full-time nursing, the biggest thing is autonomy. So when you are a travel nurse, you basically work for yourself in a sense. You have agents that you would contact to say, this is where I want to go. This is the pay that I want to make. Can you make it happen? You can have several people underneath your belt, several agencies underneath your belt. People are contacting you, you're contacting them, you're trying to sell yourself as the best nurse possible. They're trying to sell you on, my company is great and this is why you should work for me.
okay.
You get emails, you get calls, so it's easy to get agents pretty much underneath your belt. So that's the biggest thing. You kind of work for yourself. You have to have your own insurance, liability insurance, health insurance, because you don't necessarily work for a company. You work for yourself. Compared to full time, you have the umbrella of working for that hospital, which means that you have to go to all the work meetings. That means that you have to abide by the work laws. You have to work so many holidays, so many weekends. As a travel nurse, you can kind of get outside of that realm of not having to do all of those things. However, you're considered a contracted worker. So when they don't need you, that's it.
Yes, it.
They can cancel your contract at any time and say that you go to work one day, have a job, you go to work the next, you don't have a job. So it is a lot of risk. And even though the money is great, a lot of people don't do it because that is the risk. You could get canceled at any time. They could cut your hours. A lot of times you can put in your contracts that if you cancel me up to a certain amount of hours, then you still have to pay me. But a lot of times they can pretty much send you home and that's the end of your contract. And then you then have to find another contract. They can cut your pay in the middle of your contract. You sign for X amount of dollars per week. Couple weeks later, they don't need you, so they can cut your pay in half. You can either choose to leave or you can choose to stay. So that's also another difference. And as a travel nurse, you can stay in one city or one state for 364 days. If you stay 365, you're considered a full-time resident. So therefore, you don't get non-tax money, which is how travel nurses make their money because they get non-tax money for housing and for food. And it's based off of the state that you're in. So of course, people are like, California travel nurses make so much money. Well, do you know how much it costs to get a little apartment in California?
I know.
The money is gone. So, it's definitely based off of the state that you choose on how much money you make. But those are the biggest things is as a travel nurse, you're really a contracted worker compared to a full-time. You're still underneath the umbrella as a full-time employee.
Yeah, I understand. I do contracting and I like it. But like you said, there are risks. There's a risk that your contract may not get renewed. It might get cut. Alterations to the contract. And so if that happens, then you're like, because I have one girl, her contract got cut like 2 weeks ago. And it was like, oh. And she was a little frustrated. But like for me, I'm like, I know that's the territory that comes with it. But I like it because to me, it gives me more flexibility to do. Like I know, okay, I'm on contract with this for like a year. All right, cool. Or I'm doing this for 6 months or 3 months. And I know what then maybe I don't get a contract for a month or so because I want to go visit my family or something. And so I get it. Yeah, it does come with risk, but you know me, I'm down for an
Oh yeah,
adventure.
oh yeah. I've enjoyed it because most contracts are 12 weeks. During COVID, the contracts were a lot shorter, like 2 weeks, 4 weeks.
Oh
But
wow.
typically, travel contracts are 12 weeks. So you could do your 12 weeks, take 4 weeks off,
Okay.
back 12 weeks. So I've experienced travel nursing before COVID, during COVID, and after. All three different, things there. So things are definitely changing in the travel nursing world. But typically, you can enjoy your vacations as much as you want and work as much as you want.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about like the COVID thing. So they actually short. Is it because they wanted to reduce the risk? Is why they did only 2 weeks versus the 12?
Some of it was the risk, and because so that people don't get too tired, because during COVID, they were saying we need you to work 5 days straight, 60 hours, where it
What?
used to be, only 36. So a lot of times in the travel world, even people that weren't in healthcare, my sister called me one day and was like, "Oh, I saw on TikTok nurses are making $10,000 a week. Like, are you making $10,000 a week?"
I'm
I
like,
said,
don't ask no questions. Don't be
right.
asking about money.
Come on, if I'm making 10,000 a week, like y'all not gonna see me. No,
Exactly.
but with that 10,000 a week, there were times during COVID that nurses were making 10,000 a week, but they were working 72 hours a week. They were working 60 hours a week. So by the time you do it per hour, I
It
mean,
balances out.
it balances out.
Yeah.
10,000 was definitely a lot, and of course, by the time taxes come, people were crying because 10 was six.
Bruh. Taxes be killing me here in Chicago. Like, what is going on? Like,
Yeah.
oh, we're gonna bump you up. I don't even know if I even want it anymore because you're gonna bump me up in taxes.
So really, the government got to enjoy majority of that 10,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes, that's crazy. That's crazy. Okay. Because I was worried. I was like, 2 weeks? Like, that's really short. So, how many states have you been to throughout your 3 years?
Yeah, I did Oregon. I've done North and South Carolina. I've done multiple states in Virginia. I've done Kentucky. I think that's pretty much it. I kind of stayed more towards the South, just because it was easier to get home and back. Oh, and I did Atlanta, Georgia as well. So that was fun. And then I did Oregon, which is a whole new world, because nursing for them is different because they have a union for nurses. So
Okay.
nurses can really speak up. They can really express like how many patient ratio, like one nurse to how many patients. So that was nice because Oregon really cares about their nurses. Well, on the West Coast, they care about their nurses because they have a union. Whereas in the South is a little bit more stressful. But those are the places that I have got to experience in my travel nursing.
So, no, like tropical island like Hawaii or
No,
like,
unfortunately, I would never had the opportunity to go. I always wanted to go to Hawaii. I always wanted to go to Guam.
okay.
But my vision for travel nursing was to make as much money as I can to pay off my debt. And when you go to Hawaii and Guam, you're enjoying life. You're not making money.
It's
So,
expensive there because I've been twice, but it's
yes.
so beautiful. And the mindset of work and life is
Mhm.
different than on the mainland.
Yep. And I wish I would have taken the opportunity, and maybe one day I will, because nursing for me is not over.
Mhm.
But I have to have a different mindset. You have to have the mindset of I am going to work in Hawaii, but I'm going to enjoy myself. And if I come back with no money at all, I will be happy. That's the mindset you need if you're going to travel Hawaii and Guam. Because as much as they pay you, you're spending it in your housing,
I was
in your
saying,
car, and in your food. Mhm.
I got you. I got you. Yeah. I be looking at different places because when we went down there, we met a lot of people who was like, "Yeah, I quit my job and I moved out here." And I'm like, "You must have had a really, really, really good job that was paying you well," because now they're like boat docking people, like they're giving people drinks on the boat, and they're like, "I'm just so happy." And we kept hearing that so many times. Like so many people's like, "Oh yeah, we enjoy life here. It's so
Mhm.
much more peaceful." So okay. So how much longer do you think you want to continue travel nurse? Is it something that you want to put on pause for a little bit, do get something more stable, and then come back to it, or something that you just want to just continue doing, or it's like this is it?
So I'm finishing up my last assignment here because I'm getting married in a couple of days.
Woo-hoo.
Yeah. So my future husband and I have talked about what the plan is for me with travel nursing. And travel nursing can take a toll in any relationship, whether that is your children's relationship, your significant other, your spouse, because you're away from home for a significant amount of time. And depending on your current situation at home, you may choose to work more than the average, which I did. I always worked 48 to 60 hours a week. And sometimes I was not able to come back home, spend time with my significant other, tired, things like that. So we decided to take a break so that, or I to take a break so that we could focus on our marriage. So I am taking a break from travel nursing, but I would definitely love to get back out there in hopes to one day go to Hawaii, go to Guam, bring my husband with me, and we just have that mindset of just relaxing instead of we got to make all this money to pay off this debt. But have that mindset of we're just chilling, we're on the boat. I mean, I work sometimes I don't.
And I'm trying to get there myself, girl. Oh, I'm trying to get there.
So, but yeah, I'm definitely taking a break. But while I'm taking a break, I am going to try out a new specialty. So I am going to do the PACU, which is post anesthesia care unit. So it's the nurses that take care of patients right after surgery to make sure that they're doing well after anesthesia and things like that. And with travel nursing, you can't travel in a specialty that you've never worked in, at least for 6 months. So this gives me an opportunity to change my specialty, get a different pace. I've always worked nights. I'm going to be working days.
Yes.
That provides more money, which means when I get ready to travel, that provides even more money.
Hallelujah.
Opportunities. So I'm always looking for better opportunities in my nursing career. So.
Okay. That's cool. That's cool. That's like so cool. Question. So speaking of pay, I know they say, people who work graveyard shift, they usually pay them a little more. Is that still translate over to travel nursing as well?
That is actually not true in travel nursing.
Okay.
In travel nursing, everybody gets paid the same, whether you work days or nights. The biggest thing is there's more night shift job opportunities.
Oh, okay.
So if you're a person that want to work days, you may have to be willing to go someplace else that you don't want to go because they may not need day shift nurses. Most nurses don't like working nights in general. So then all of their nurses goes to days and then they're stuck needing nurses. So there's double, triple amount of night shift jobs open. So that's the reason why it's more like the availability, not necessarily the pay. But in travel nursing, you do not get paid more working nights, unfortunately.
Okay, because I hear people like, yeah, they're gonna pay XYZ if I work nights, and I'm like, oh, okay. I don't know, big ups to you because I work in bed at 7:30.
Yeah,
like we gotta rejuvenate because this ain't working for me. Yeah. I be asking people, what time does it start? Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I gotta be back in bed at least by 8. 7:30 is my number, but at least by 8. Getting old.
I will have to say, if someone is getting paid more in nights, it's probably because a necessity is there, not necessarily because you're working nights like a full time.
Okay. So going back, we was talking about the cost of living. How do you navigate finding lodging?
It is tough. That is honestly the most stressful part of travel nursing. Working with patients, working with different people, that is a breeze compared to trying to find housing. Wow. Pre-COVID, it was easier. But once COVID hit, pre-COVID, not that many people were renting their houses and they were renting their houses at a decent price. All right. Mm-hmm. During COVID, people were more like, we love nurses. We'll let you stay here for free. Mm-hmm. Post-COVID and all of these TikToks telling people that nurses are making $10,000. That one little bedroom that was $500 is now $1,000 because they think all nurses were making $10,000. And that was really a very minute opportunity, very small, and very few people got it. So the average nurse wasn't making $10,000, but everyone was renting out their rooms. Everyone was renting out their houses. Hotels started shooting up their prices. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the money was getting eaten up. If you ended up with a higher contract, a lot of your money got eaten up. There was times that I slept in my car because I refused to spend $500 for a hotel because I work nights. Like I'm not even sleeping there,
Yeah, because checkout is at 12 p.m.
At 12 p.m. So I was just like, I'm just going to sleep in my car. That was stressful. It was stressful because post-COVID and during COVID, people were charging $500 and $600 to clean their space off of Airbnb. And I'm thinking to myself, now I know y'all are not spending this much amount of money on cleaning supplies.
Yeah.
So that was when you're focused on, let me take this opportunity, let me financially get myself in a better situation. I still have to pay bills at home on top of paying bills in a new location. So housing was definitely very difficult to find in a reasonable price in a timely manner. When you go to a hospital that's near a school, a lot of the cheaper housing is already taken. So you end up staying in more expensive hotels, or you end up staying in a sketchy area. You never know what area you're in. When I went to Oregon, I flew there the day before. So I pretty much had to cross my fingers, put my down payment on a room, and hope that these were good people. You
Yeah.
know? And I've gotten scammed on a couple of places. You know, people tell you, oh, it's just me and one other person, and you get there and the whole house is full of a whole bunch of people, and you're sharing bathrooms with multiple people. And you're
What?
like, I got to get out of here. I've already paid my 2 weeks, but I was like, my sanity is more important.
Yes, that is crazy.
So that is probably one of the most stressful things. I always travel by myself, but the biggest thing that I would share is to find a traveling partner. Because it's easier to just be able to rent something you guys are sharing, you know, get a blow up mattress, things like that. Because doing it by yourself can be a little scary, especially as a female going into a new area that you don't know. I really was adamant about not sharing space with a male. So that makes it harder too, because most people that do Airbnbs were males, and they were sharing rooms. And I was like, I don't even like sharing space with a stranger, let alone a male stranger, you know. And I was like, I don't even want to share bathrooms, not even with another female, because you never know if they're clean, if they're dirty. I work nights, do they work days? I mean, so much you got to think about. And that was probably the most stressful part of travel nursing.
That's crazy. Like, I didn't even think about any of that type of stuff. Like, this sounds stressful to me now.
It is. And you have to do that every 3 months. Unless you stay
Sometimes some people did for 2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks, and then up you go, up to the next place.
That's freaking crazy. Yep. So I follow this girl. I'm quite sure she's a travel nurse. Quite sure. I haven't dug deep into her profile yet to make sure that I'm correct. But she has an RV. I do know of some people. Well, I don't know of them, but I have seen them like on Facebook and stuff. They get an RV and they fix it up and all that stuff like that. And so, have you ever considered that, like getting our RV? Because this one girl, hers is super nice. I was trying to find it on my Instagram so I can like tell you who it was, but I can't remember her name. But it's so nice. She took some time. She is a travel nurse. I remember. I found her on the travel nursing page on Facebook, Furnish Finder, and that's how it ended up. Like she was asking because she parked in someone's like neighborhood, like in their driveway or whatever, because the place she was going, she couldn't find anywhere safe. So she wanted to, you know, she was like, I'll pay and everything. But have you ever considered like doing that?
That is personally not the lifestyle I would like to have, only because for me, it was important to have peace when I rested my head after.
But you slept in the car.
Yes, I did.
This is a whole RV with a bed.
I'm desperate to not spend $500 for a hotel. Desperate times calls for desperate measures. But with RV, I feel like you have to be somewhat mechanical savvy. Because unless you just have the money,
that's true,
buy a really nice one. But the really nice ones are almost like a price of a house. So you really have to put full commitment. This is what I'm doing for long term, unless you just have money to where you can buy, you know, straight out. But they're expensive, number one. Number two, you have to clean your own toilet. Like,
okay,
you know,
that's true. Okay, right there, I'm done. Yeah, I know she had an older one and she fixed it up, so I know it wasn't like, oh, just go off the lot, because she was like showing her progress of that. But you know, I wasn't thinking about that. Yeah, I'm good on that.
Yep. And then the hot water is usually really little. You know, you can only have so much. I know I've heard of people boiling their hot water, things like that. So it is definitely a full commitment. But those people really capitalize on travel nursing. You want to make money, and RV is the way to go, because you can stay at an RV park for like $100 for a month. And your housing, you know, you could get a nice RV for $500-$600 a month, you know, for payments, which is cheaper than anywhere staying.
My car payment is about that.
Right.
So I can't sleep in it like that. I can't walk around in my car.
Exactly. So now I have heard of people taking SUVs like Suburbans and pulling out the seats out of them and making beds. And people would go to the gym to shower, do everything like that, and then just sleep in Walmart parking lot, because apparently Walmart does not tell you if you stay.
Yeah, Walmart will not tell you. I have heard of people, not related to travel nursing, but heard of people like getting a monthly membership to a gym, and one that's like nationwide whenever they travel, and then they can always go take a shower, use the restroom, freshen up, and it was just cheaper than getting a hotel, because they would sleep like in their car or whatnot. And I was like, Oh, that wasn't that bold.
That's capitalizing. I wasn't that far. I slept in my car maybe 3 times, but I'm not going to do it. 12 in weeks, that's a lot of commitment. So
Wow. Okay. So it's quite obvious you're a brown skinned girl. So we're gonna jump into that. The elephant in the room or not in the room.
melanin.
Black girl magic
Right.
here. Hey. So questions and how is it navigating, or let's talk about representation. So representation, I know I was sharing you earlier about an Instagram story that I saw and I actually reposted. It is about a Black nurse, and she was explaining representation matters because she was coming onto her shift. The night nurse was writing up the notes she was a labor and delivery nurse, and for the patient. And she was saying, going over, I guess, the charts or whatever with her. And she's like, yeah, she was like, I put in a site consult for this patient because she just keeps hitting her head, for like no reason. And so she was like, did you ask her why? And so she was like, no. And then she was like, well, was she Black? And she was like, yeah, how did you know? She was like, was she patting it like this? And so she was like, yeah. And so she was like, her scalp is itching. She's like, she has a weave. When Black women have weaves, they pat their heads like that if they cannot scratch it. And so she asked her to remove the site consult because it wasn't needed, And of course, in that moment in time, if one of us would have walked in there and saw a girl patting her head, would have been like, oh, okay, whatever. Like it would have rolled. We wouldn't even thought about it. We'd just be like, sis need to oil a scalp, But for that, she was just explaining how representation matters because homegirl would have been in a site consult for no reason, trying to explain why she doesn't need to be there. And it would just been a waste of everybody's time. It could have, caused damage, emotional damage to the girl. So how do you feel as like a Black woman, as a nurse, like when it comes to representation?
I took a class in nursing school. Not all nursing schools are required to do this, even though I believe that it should be a requirement. But I took a cultural class that talked about different cultural differences, different ethnicities. And I think that is so important to have the basic knowledge of different cultures. Unfortunately, women of color, that's Black, Hispanic, Asian, Latino, Indian, a lot of women, they are misunderstood, they are misheard. One of the things that people talk about is Hispanic and Black women are loud. They're just naturally loud. So if they're being dramatic, it doesn't mean anything, and unfortunately, a lot of times that's how nurses, doctors, other healthcare providers, they just shoo them away because, they're just being dramatic when something is actually a problem.
Yeah.
One of my passions that I had when I was going to do OBGYN is in that field for Black women. There's lots of stories that's talked about that Black women were on the verge of losing their life after having a baby because they were not heard. They kept saying something is wrong, like women bleeding out, losing their life, all because someone thought, they're just being dramatic. Oh, they're just talking. Oh, Black women are just loud. Oh, Hispanics scream all the time anyways. And that's just very disappointing because, okay, let's say Hispanic people are typically loud. Let's just say that Black women are typically, more attitude, but that doesn't mean that they don't have a, situation. A lot of people say that, Hispanic women cannot tolerate pain. So if they say their pain is a 10, it really isn't a 10. So they really don't deserve it. But yet we were taught that pain should be subjective. So why look at someone of color and just assume? A lot of people say that Asian women can tolerate pain. So if you have an Asian patient that's sitting in the bed just having surgery and they tell you that they're fine, of course they're not fine.
I'm good. They just ripped out my organs. I'm good.
Give that person some pain medicine. Let's use some real judgment right now. If your arm is cut off, would you need some pain medicine? Like, come on. So, it's unfortunate that people don't take that education, and it would be nice if more schools had those type of classes so that you can be able to have some better judgment. Because I honestly do not think that everyone is racist. I think that people are just not educated. So in certain situations, it may not always be, they just hate Black people, or they just hate, Hispanics. I think they just honestly have this perception that's wrong. And they truly believe, I was told that Black people just have attitudes. I was just told that Hispanics just scream. Do you see the blood? It's real, So it's just really unfortunate. So it is nice when you have women of color in general, but specifically women of color as their nurse. Like, I have come in and I've had patients be so relieved that I was their nurse that night because they were like, you understand what's going on. Like, you're not prejudging me as soon as I walk into the room because of my weight or because of how I look or because of how I speak. You know, some people really feel dismissed. Some people say, like, the way I talk, they just assume that I just don't understand anything at all.
Mhm.
And it's not that I don't understand. I may talk differently. So it is nice when you come into a room, people are like, whoo, girl, I'm so glad it's you because I've been struggling all night with these white people, you know. You're like, yes, and sometimes I come into a room and you can just tell they don't want you there,
Mhm.
all because you are Black, and it's just right off the back. They're very short with you. They just assume that, oh, are you here to take out the trash? Oh, I'm actually your nurse. What? A nurse? 2 years?
Wow.
No, 4, baby. I went to school 4 years. What? So
Got my degree from YouTube. How about that?
right.
Oh,
So it's a different environment, but it is nice to see that more Black women are going into the field. I'm not sure where they came from, but let me tell you, pre-COVID to post-COVID, I don't know if the Black women of the US got together and said we all need to travel nurse at the same time. But I've never seen so many Black women in the nursing field going after what they want in life, whether that is to experience the world, whether that is to get more freedom financially, having little groups to be like, this is what we need to do as Black women. So it is nice to be able to see that, because pre-COVID, I was like, a lot of times the only Black woman on the floor in those situations, but post-COVID, it was like multiple.
we gonna turn up.
Hey, I was like, wow, there's only one like other ethnicity. There's 5 other ones of us, eyebrow.
I go like, girl.
Yeah. So that definitely was nice. But I do think education is like the biggest thing. Like, we just need to take time out, educate ourselves. Education is so easily available that no one should have an excuse to not know certain things, specifically on this topic.
Okay. What was I gonna say? I totally understand that, because honestly, one of my fears about having a kid is that somebody not gonna hear me and they gonna let me die. Like, that is a real fear, because I hear so many stories, and racism or the lack of knowledge towards, other cultures, that doesn't escape like status and who you are. Like Beyonce, I think they talked about her having issues, delivering a baby. Serena Williams told her story about how she almost died having a baby. Like Judge Hadget's daughter-in-law died because no one would listen to her about the complications that she was having. And I'm like, you know how they be like 1 out of 10, and then I count all my friends, and I'm like, am I the one?
Right.
Like when I tell people, like, whenever I have a kid or whatever, I was like, my cousin, my auntie, Amber, like, they gotta be there.
Yeah.
Because I feel like y'all know what's going on. Like, y'all can speak up for me, because sometimes I do understand, like, some people don't have other people to speak up for them. It was this other girl, I can't remember her name, but she's married to some dude. She was talking about the same thing, her story. Like, she was like, no one would speak up for me. She was like, thankfully her husband was able to come through, was like, yo, like, she's about to die, and they was able to do whatever they needed to do for her. But she was talking about the lack of representation. She was like, they thought I was exaggerating. They wouldn't give me pain medication because they was like, oh, your pain is not that high. And she's like, no, it really is. Like, I'm in extreme pain. And yeah, that really scares me. So that's why, like, sometimes I'll be, like, if I'm ever at the hospital, or like healthcare workers, like, I'm looking around, like, or like even just like doctor visits, like, are they gonna judge me because I'm already Black? Like, are they just automatically gonna assume, like, oh, she's this, that, and the third? Because that's really scary, as a Black woman, as a Black person, but especially as a Black woman, because having a baby is like, that's an extreme process on your body. And even outside of, labor and delivery, just having someone there, like, that could speak up for you. Because if I'm in the hospital and I see somebody Black, I'm like, hey, what's up? I feel like, okay, like, I feel like I have a chance. Not that no one else outside of being Black or color could help me, but sometimes because of history, my mind goes there. Like, will this person speak up for me? And that's something that I think about, like, all the time. Will I have someone to speak up for me if I can't speak up for myself? So.
Yeah, and that's what keeps me going in nursing. It can definitely be stressful. And like any career, you look at your paycheck and you think to yourself, I need to get paid more. Like, right. It's not always good days at the hospital, because a lot of times you see patients at their worst. You get their worst attitude. No matter, no matter the situation, family members attacking you, things like that, the patient attacking you, But at the end of the day, for me, what keeps me going is providing education and being an advocate for my patients. Because a lot of times patients just do not have the education, whether that is medication wise, how to be able to say what you need to say. Like I tell my patients, look, if you're going to go to the ER, this is what you need to say if you want the attention that you need. Okay, remember these words. All right. There's certain terms that need to be said so that you can be heard. And a lot of times people just do not know those things. So to be able to give them that education, this is what this medication means. This is what it does. Being able to provide that, be that advocate. Okay, you're sending this patient home with all of these medications, but their insurance doesn't cover it. So how can we help them? Because you're sitting here talking about, oh, well, this person continues to come back and they're not taking their medication, and they like to use the word that the patient is not being compliant. Where they're not being compliant, or they just not have the resources that they need. And so I am really big at being an advocate. Like, no, it's not that they don't want to do it. They don't have the resources to do it, or the lack of education. I think that's just so important, because you go through your career moving so fast. And I know, like, it's fast work. People expect you to do a lot of things within 12 hours. But the biggest thing for me is advocacy and education.
Okay. So you could be like a really good teacher, like, hey, let's promote, and that is true. My friend who is a doctor, she was just telling me this the other day because she got some patients. I guess it was like for a blood transfusion or whatever. And she was explaining, the process and everything. And she was telling me, I like to be informative with as much time as I have, so that they know, okay, if they refuse it, this is what happens. Here's some alternatives. But she was saying that they had all these beliefs about blood transfusions. And she was like, initially it was like, ugh. But then at the same time, she was like, you know what? It comes from culture. It comes from not knowing, and so she was like, she took the time to explain it. She was like, I'm giving you education. You can still make your decision, but I want you to at least have all the facts. And, that's very, important. And she was like, because they were us. And she was like, I didn't want them out there losing their lives over something that they heard on the street or on TikTok, So I totally get it. I get it. That's awesome. So what is something that you would say to like people who are like interested in travel nursing or just nursing in general? What is something that you're like, look, this is what you need to know?
Nursing in general, I would say to figure out your why. If you're going into nursing because everybody tells you it's good money, it's good hours, do something else. Because 312 seemed like a really good opportunity.
And it does. I'm not gonna lie. I was like 312s.
Yeah.
I'm up for 12 hours.
That those 12 hours can easily turn into 13, can turn into 14. Mentally is exhausting to work 12-hour shifts. So the other days you're catching up. It's not like, 4 days off, 3 days on, like chilling all day long. So I would definitely try to figure out your why, and make sure that you have a passion in educating patients, or have a passion of being somebody's advocate, because that's what the whole purpose of you as a nurse is. Because as a doctor, you write all the orders. The nurses are just implementing the orders. They're being the advocate for that patient, to speak on that patient's behalf and be able to provide a service. And if you do not have a heart of service, attitudes will come, coming at you, and you be like, no, wait a minute. Is this job really that important? You really have to turn the other cheek. It really is in healthcare. The customer is always right in a lot of scenarios. And if you cannot take that mindset and say, okay, how can I be of service to my patient, and let those things slide off of your chest? I'm not saying to sit there and just continue to be disrespected or just continue to let people go off on you. But a lot of times patients, they're hurting mentally, physically. So you are going to get a lot of times the worst attitude. In the end, they usually apologize. And a lot of times you do have pretty pleasant patients.
I've been there. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I'm in a bad mood. Yeah. I'm sorry. It ain't got nothing to do with you.
I would say that. And then also, if you are in nursing school right now and you say, well, man, everything Nikki said, I better get out. It's okay. Don't get out, because there's other opportunities. You can go through nursing school and never touch a patient. I mean, after nursing school. In nursing school, you do, because you do have to do all your clinicals. But I have friends that after nursing school, they went into education. They went into doctor's offices, so where they're not dealing with a lot of blood. They went straight into the OR, so their patients are always sleeping. They never hear patient talk. So there is different avenues that you can go to where you don't necessarily have to work those 12 hours. You can work 5 8, you can work 4 10. So there is a lot of opportunity out there, but definitely, like, of course, most careers, you look at your check and you're like, But definitely find out where your passion is, because most likely you're going to be dealing with a lot of patients. So you do have to be a people person. Not saying that you have to be an extrovert, but you have to be willing to give yourself and be a service. When it comes to travel nursing, I would say, again, find out your why. Are you doing it for the money? Are you doing it to vacation? Because that will determine where you're going to go.
Okay.
And to also be willing to be flexible. If you're a person that has to stay in structure, that has to know exactly when things are going to happen, what time it's going to happen, don't do travel nursing, because you may not get where you're going to go to the day of. You may not get your schedule until the day of. So you have to be a flexible person when it comes to that, because money does not bring you happiness. Yes, travel nursing does bring some financial benefits, but there's a lot of sacrifice. You're away from home. You have to pay 2 house notes. You got to pay your house at home and pay the live where you at. And it's probably more expensive than your house at home.
Wow.
You have to be willing to take that risk. Like you said earlier, being a contracted person, have a little savings account so that if your contract gets canceled, be able to go home, and be able to ride that wave.
Mm-hmm.
For both travel nursing and full-time nursing, definitely get yourself some liability insurance. I know for nurses, it's like $100 a year, but that protects you. Like that nurse that was at Vanderbilt, that big situation that had just happened, the hospital turned on her and she was basically going against the state, and all of those expenses are on her. And yes, that is 1 in a million opportunity, but there are other smaller cases where nurses are on trial on certain things, and you have to be able to represent yourself. And people can come after you. People can sue nurses. They don't always sue the hospital. So you have to have liability insurance. And I think that that's important, because a lot of people are going, it's not a big deal. A hospital will take care of me. No, they won't.
Sometimes they will flip on you, be like, we release her.
They will throw you to the wolves. Okay.
Wow.
But overall, I would say to take care of yourself, because a hospital is a business. And when you were gone, they will replace you in a hot second.
As everything is.
So take care of yourself. Do not overwork yourself and feel like I have to give back to this company because they care, which some do. But just remember, you are your responsibility. So take care of yourself mentally, physically, emotionally, all of that, because all of that can start weighing on you if you don't put yourself first.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. That was... That's crazy. Wow, there's just a lot of stuff I just did not know. Like, just overall, let me go back. I met someone when I was living in Savannah who was a travel nurse, and that's when it like stuck out to me. I was like, oh, that's cool. And then when you was like, yeah, I'm a travel nurse, and I think Uncle Steve and Shanita, I think they were doing it. I was like, oh, that's cool. And now sitting here talking to you, I'm like,
yeah. I've definitely had those experiences. I'm looking at people on Instagram, I'm thinking, dang, they're having a lot more fun than me.
I follow a travel nurse, and I'm like, but she does get on there and be like, y'all, like, let me tell y'all the real tea. Like, this is what's going on. She was like, I love it, but this is what it is. But also, like when you were saying, you have to decide, how does it affect home? For her, she's not married, she doesn't have any kids, and that's just the surface level. I don't know her relationships with other people. So it is more simple. But when you start saying, okay, I'm getting married, I have kids, because Dumars, he was a traveling engineer, we got married, it was just like, oh, this is interesting. We have to figure this out, and then now he's gone.
Oh, no.
Went from one extreme to a huge other extreme.
Oh, no.
But no. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for kicking it with me today. I definitely enjoy getting to know more about travel nursing. As always, guys, do not forget to comment, like, subscribe, as well as share this podcast.
Definitely share, like, and subscribe.
Yes, sharing is caring. It can be fun, and it is definitely free. Okay, so we like free.
Not too many things are free these days.
Not too many things are free. Okay, this is free. To share it is totally free. So once again, thank you so much, and we out.
All right, thanks. Oh, there we go.
Yeah.